Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Title I Student Showcase. Tonight, we have with us our Director of Curriculum, Mrs. Diane Pedroza. We have our Vice Principal of the middle school, Mr. Stephen Ninavaji. We have Maureen Moore, who is our Supervisor of Instruction for Science and Math, grades 6 through 12. Mrs. Santana, who is Basic Skills Interventionists for grades 6, 7, and 8. And we have Mrs. Wright, who is a 7th grade English language arts teacher, and Mrs. Velasquez, who is our technology coach. We welcome you this evening. We're so proud of our students. Mrs. Velasquez is going to lead the discussion and the presentation. Mrs. Velasquez?
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Spring Showcase. So what that's going to look like is I'm actually going to be sharing my screen. We've had some students who have volunteered to show their work that they've been doing throughout the year, whether it be in language arts, in science, and STEM, wherever it was. We kind of presented them about 6 choices that they could choose from, and then they can, however they saw fit, share out their activities that they've done or projects, anything that they were really proud of this year. So we really kind of wanted to showcase their learning in a way that would be fun for them to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm first going to show you what I presented to the students. So I'm going to show you the 6 choices that they had. And then I'm going to show you the site, which you will have access to on the district site, and you can see the students that have volunteered for the different categories. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to share my screen. So for this, we had a couple of different choices. So for this spring showcase, students had the choice to do mind mapping, and I'm going to kind of go over each one, create a poem. They could have showed off their work, visual and performing arts, photo comic strip, or they could have created a digital book. So what we've done is we created this choice board, and in the Google Classrooms and the teachers, we shared this with the teachers and the students, and we gave them the option to look at the board, and if anything kind of sparks your interest, click on the directions and see where it takes you. So just starting with the mind mapping, to click on the directions, the students could have chosen, to summarize what they've learned, maybe a skill. So they would take 5 things that they learned, and they're going to use the digital tool of their choice. So they could have chose maybe a Google drawing that they can map out their thoughts, or they could have made a Google slide presentation on something that they learned, whether it be in like US history, or would be in STEM or math, anything that they wanted. After they've done that, we offered them a screencastify submit, which is creating their own screencastify video to present their learning. So that was one of the choices that they could choose from. The next thing, I'm going to go back to the main board, was create a poem. So here, they could create a poem using the tools of their choice, either a Google drawing or a Google slide. And then right there, they could publish their poem. And in that link, I show a video of them, how they'll be able to publish their poem for them. So it kind of gives them a tutorial of how you take a Google slide or a Google drawing and how you publish it so that it can be used on the site. I also offered them some ideas for them to check out. So if they weren't sure what to do, if they would have clicked on this link here, it would have brought them to different types of poems that they could have chosen. And they can go from there, either vertical poems, and then they can click on the different templates and use those templates for their project. So that was something that it kind of just let them, kind of get creative in that way. So that was create a poem. The next option that they had was show off their work. So we didn't want to just, make it so it was just maybe just ELA. We wanted to know, like, some students are really excited about different projects that they've done in different subject areas. So we really just wanted them to say, hey, you've done something? Share it with us. And so I offered a screencastify submit, which is similar to a Flipgrid, but it goes into Google Drive. It has the same screencastify tools that the teachers have, and it gives them an assignment where they can narrate their work and show off their work. So that was for show off their work. It could be anything that they've done with their classes. The next one that we have is the visual and performing arts. And we asked if they played an instrument or they had art that they've done this year that they're really proud of. I did offer a Flipgrid that they could have showcased what they would like us to see. The next one was a photo comic strip. And that was, they were going to use this comic strip, was a hyperlink here that they would create a copy for themselves. And they would use their webcam and take pictures and do bubbles and speech bubbles and maybe go through maybe the learning process of maybe a hard concept. It could be decimals, fractions, lines, anything like that that they were working on that they found that they were proud of. And then I show them a link on how to publish. So when they clicked on the comic strip, if they chose this, they would get a sample. It went over their the directions here, and it gave them a template that they can work on right from there. And then, let me just move this over. The next thing that they had was to create a digital book. So one of the things that I have access to is Digital Book Creator, which is a wonderful tool that makes books interactive. Students can speak on it, they can embed videos, they can create all kinds of books to showcase their learning. So what I've done is I created a digital book library. I gave them a code and the students had a choice to create different books of their choice if they wanted to, and then it would be in the library and then I would publish them onto the site. I also gave them a tutorial, so if they clicked here, they were able to look at the tutorial, see how to use Book Creator for themselves. And if they weren't sure what to use it for, I offered them different examples of books. And that was in Book Creator, students just like themselves, young and old, what they have done with different books all around and how they can use them. So if I was just to click on one, just for example, let me just click on this front one, place value. This is a digital book and it opens up and it kind of goes over pictures and different things. So, and what's great about this is they can add their voices and all that, and it also can read to them and read to the person who's reading it as well. So that was another option that students had to choose from. So those were the 6 choices that they could have chosen. And then what we've done is the students that decided that they were going to volunteer, they sent me their choices. And so on the site, I have, and I'm so excited about this, that we were able to get all grade levels. Thank you, Ms. Sentimena as well. All grade levels to participate. So we have 1 6th grader who decided to participate. We have 1 7th grader and 3 8th graders. And so in the site, you will see, and it's forever, it's something that can keep going. It's not something that has to be stagnant. It can be an ongoing live feed of students' work if students choose to, if they're finished with the project. I know a lot of them are working on research papers and end of the year things. I can always add to this showcase because we always want to showcase student learning. So we do have, and I'm just going to briefly talk about them and then I'm going to pass it over whatever I need to do. But for showing off their work, I had 2 students that chose that. I had 1 student named Ava F. From 6th grade. She chose her natural occurrences presentation that she's done in her class. And that is something where it's people can learn about what happens in the different environments that she's chosen. I have a student that created a show off your work. They did a screencastify submit of the boy who harnessed the wind. That's Jackson W. from 7th grade. So he has a video here and he talks about his presentation. He took a picture of his big board presentation with Tammy, and then he put it on Tammy, and then he did a screencastify of his presentation. And then I have a few poems here from 8th graders that they did all different types of poems, whether it be acrostic or a synchrones or whatever. That was Olivia C., 8th grade. I also have Mason D. from 8th grade and Marquise G. from 8th grade as well. So that is where I was able to, I invited those students to even be here tonight to commend them for their hard work and for sharing their activities with us, you know, and the parents as well. Oh, you're muted. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mrs. Velasquez. And thank you, Mrs. Wright and Mrs. Moore and Mrs. Santamena for contributing to all of your ideas. We met several times to discuss. Mrs. Pedroza basically came up with this idea in the beginning, so we built upon her original idea, and this is where this went into the showcase. Mrs. Pedroza, would you like to add anything?
No, I just am very, very pleased with the fact that Mrs. Velasquez, you and Mrs. Wright and Mrs. Santamena and the other teachers at the middle school continue to build upon this, because I do think that we've been able to use the technology to leverage in a way that kids can have some choice. They can spotlight what they feel proud of, and then it becomes a work, almost like a portfolio for them to be able to look back on from year to year, but also for us to reflect on it. So I think it's such a neat way to showcase student work. And I'm glad that even for families that couldn't be here this evening, they would be able to look at it at another time. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Ms. Pedroza. Mr. Ninavaji, would you like to add anything, or any of the teachers? Mrs. Moore?
I just want to thank everybody for making this happen. It's my favorite events are when we showcase students' work and everyone can see so many wonderful things that are going on at the middle school. I want to thank Mrs. Velasquez for creating that, and the basic skills teachers who really have worked hard with the students and helping them along. I think this is a great event. And thank you, Mrs. Pedroza and the curriculum department for making it happen.
I'd like to ask Mrs. Wright and Mrs. Santamena, so were the students given time to work on it inside the day or outside the day? And then once it was done, did a teacher work with them to kind of publish it or to go over what they were going to be submitting?
I can speak to that a little bit. Students were presented with it initially through Google Classroom. So the option to do the showcase project was posted to the Google Classrooms for the various programs that they're involved in. We also encouraged it at Boost and Tutor Time after school. So that was a good place to talk to students about it and give them time to work on it. I was in class the other day with Jackson W. that was doing the project with Mrs. Velasquez. And so when he was finished with his work for class, he worked on it during class, and then we sent him to Mrs. Velasquez to go work on his screencastify. So it was kind of like a cumulative effort of a little bit of the kids working on it on their own. Mrs. Velasquez is definitely the one who was able to help put it together and really help the kids get it to the showcase point. But it just took some, teachers just encouraging the projects and offering it to their classes as an opportunity. And then we just worked with whatever kids were interested. I hope that answers your question.
What I'm wondering is, I love it because I think that you want children to take some of their own initiative, be able to show in some way culminating project of what they've learned. And I think, I'm wondering, Mrs. Velasquez, now some of these students, would they be able to replicate this on their own? Like, could they, if the teachers put this as a rotation and a choice board, would some of them be able to be leaders and kind of guide their peers through this, or will we need a couple more opportunities to do that? Because maybe that's something we should build upon.
I think that's a wonderful idea. I feel, I think they were scared at first to do it. They were wondering, they didn't see the end results of what is supposed to be the product. Everybody wants to kind of, what do you need? And so there really is kind of taking that leap of faith that, we just want you to just showcase what you really like. Here's the tools, showcase what you can do. I think that, speaking to Jackson, I feel like he was really confident. He would come see me a couple of times and he would press record and he did his thing and he figured out, I didn't tell him to put it on Cami and get the presentation. He thought of different ways. How am I going to get my project that I built on a poster board on there? And, he did that all on his own. And I think that he could offer that advice to other students as well. 8th graders were shocked that you could publish your own Google Slides and have it in a rotation that they can do pictures, they can do all kinds of different things. And I don't think they realize that there's so much more that you can do besides, the simple presentations that we used to do, and that they can be something, like we said, a portfolio for you that look what I did when I was in 8th grade and look how I evolved throughout the years of my, my Manchester career and learned so much about. So I definitely think that these students can show other students what to do. I feel that when you give them more options, I did have, actually Mason was really excited about doing also an extra one, a visual arts performance one. He wanted to do a Flipgrid one and he just didn't have time to do it. So it just, the time didn't allow it for him, but he was super excited about that. And I think that speaks a lot to like giving them that, I didn't know I can do something like that. That's cool. And then letting them go. I feel like letting the reins off a little bit, but be there as a facilitator does help for that. For sure.
Yeah, it almost reminds me of like when they do Genius Hour. Obviously this is a much smaller scale, but it's a similar concept that I could see developing, and I could see the kids, building upon it and really taking ownership of. It's almost like a student selected student of the month presentation kind of thing. I really do think it could become like something bigger. But I think that this gave us a good taste of what the kids are capable of, and it gives us ideas of ways that we can really build upon it, for the rest of the year or for next year.
The other thing is, Mrs. Santamena, what I like is, if anything we learned this year, it's student autonomy. Like kids have a lot more autonomy and they have a lot more voice. But I also like that we use tech in a certain way. So for example, we're using Cami for annotation, but yet the child was able to apply that it could be used in another way to showcase something, which is even probably greater than what we anticipated them using it for. So that's really fantastic, because I do think that a lot of times we go to slideshows. Let's do a Google slideshow. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I think it becomes more dynamic when it's more than just a Google slideshow or a PowerPoint. And I do think it's kind of hard to take the reins off sometimes, but that's really when there's a level of engagement, that kids are doing what you are asking of them and that you are that guide on the side. And I see that in your classrooms. But I also think that you're right. It reminds me of Genius Hour, Mrs. Santamena. And I think that Genius Hour could be almost like a culmination at the end. Their project could be displayed in a way so that from year to year we have it, as opposed to, Mr. Ninavaji, us keeping the papers or the actual documents or all those things. And we can let them display through the school when parents are coming through on televisions or whatnot, or let other kids see to spark creativity and ideas. So fantastic.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Imagine that, walking through and seeing all these cool things that the students have done digitally on the screens. That would be really neat. That'd be really neat.
Mrs. Wright, did you want to say something before?
No, I was just frozen. Everybody was frozen. And I couldn't hear anything. And then now you guys are back.
Mrs. Moore, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I would like to agree with Jen Santamena about what she's saying about Genius Hour, and how when kids take ownership of their own learning, and we stop being the gatekeeper of their learning, they go further. So it's something we definitely need to keep in mind as we move forward. And giving choice is, today. It's the way things are going. So nice job, ladies. You did an excellent job.
Well, before we end for the evening, I would like to encourage parents. We have a Title I literacy celebration / breakfast, and that is on June 9th, right, Mrs. Moore? June 9th, is that the date? At 7:30?
It starts at, I think it was 7:15.
7:15 till 8 o'clock a.m.
Yeah, and we're not going to be serving food. because of the
It's a virtual
situation.
breakfast.
But it's virtual. You know, you could have your coffee and donut while you're listening and talking and participating. And then our plan is to have the kids come down and hand out certificates of participation this year in our after school programs, in the IXL and Achieve 3000, and just recognize the kids who had good attendance and really worked hard for, you know, during this difficult year.
Thank you, Mrs. Moore. Mrs. Santamena, on that note, would you like to add a little bit about Achieve 3000 and what that's used for in the Title I program?
Sure. We used Achieve 3000 this year in our extension class that we came up with, where students came to us and we worked with them in a small group setting on Achieve 3000. Basically, they took a pre-test at the beginning of the year, which is their Ready Set assessment, and that gave us their Lexile level. And from there, it basically was kind of a competition for them versus themselves and other students to try to improve that Lexile level and constantly be improving their skills in language arts. So through various high interest articles and skill exercises that we did with the students, it helped show everyone, the kids, the parents, the teachers, showed the growth of the student throughout the year and where they started versus how much they've grown since the beginning.
Thank you, Mrs. Santamena.
You're welcome.
Any closing comments? Well, thank you everyone for joining us. We hope you have a wonderful evening and we look forward to a successful school year next year.